Good evening, guys. We'll give another people couple of more minutes. Okay. Then we'll start in 2 minutes. Okay, I can't start now because people will miss out. So today what we are going to cover is
Evening, sir.
good evening, yeah. One sec. Okay. So today what we are going to cover is how you are going to murder agile and compromise, and but in a way which is still beneficial to the organization. So we did estimations in story points. So what we saw was that how we can estimate stories based on a concept called story points. So story points are your imaginary units with which we uh, estimate our stories. So some stories are which are very easy are 1 or 2 points. Medium complexity stories are 3 to 5 points. Complex stories are 8 points. Very complex stories are 13 points. Very complex stories are 20 pointers. So typically in a sprint, if it is a 2 week sprint, we will not take more than a 5 pointer or an 8 pointer. We could typically take, so typically very few stories will be a 2 pointer. Typically your stories will be 3, 5 or 8. These 3 sizes. So small, medium and large. 2 or 3 points is your small story. 5 pointer is your medium story. 8 pointer is your large story. So if you have to do t-shirt sizing is also done on based on this. If it is a small story, 2 or 3 pointer S, 5 pointer M, L is your 8 pointer. And XL is your 13 pointer. In that case, you will split the story. Sometimes if splitting is not possible, you cannot go, product is very complex, you cannot, the PO is new, is not very comfortable in splitting stories. In those cases, then I would say have a 3 week sprint rather than a 2 week sprint. Even a 4 week sprint is okay if you are hell-bent on doing larger stories. So if the team is not able to complete their stories, then let us say developers are taking 11 days to complete the story or 12 days. Testers are taking 3 or 4 days. PO is taking 2 days to review. So then it will be a 4 week sprint. Don't be obsessed with 2 week sprint. Do the optimization. If still people are not unable to complete, then there is no harm in increasing the length of the sprint if the nature of the product or the team is such that they are not able to do a quick paced development. Okay, so I think a lot of people are missing here. I need to cover.
Sir, one question.
Uh,
Let's say during estimation, we have given 8 story points to a story, but that is very big story. I mean, that cannot be finished within 1 week. So let's say half is completed. So what is the best
what do
way?
you do with the spillovers? That's your basic question. What do
Uh,
you do with story which is half completed or 60%? We'll see. Okay, we'll
okay.
see today. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let us start today's session by, okay. So what we saw last time was, I think Rupa was not there, Sarvan was not there. So these are new set of people now. How do I maintain continuity is very... you guys have gone through the...
Yes, I have gone through with the recording.
right. Okay, so what we are going to do is now we will talk today about the hybrid approach. What is this hybrid approach? So sometimes these organizations will force you into estimating story points in hours. How do you do that? So we say one story point is equal to 6 hours. It could be 8 hours also, but typically we do a mapping of one story point is equal to 6 hours. Now, how do you do this? Let us go to the stories. Okay, so this is how my sprint is looking like. So I will go to this story. Okay. So this is a story. Now let us say, for example, you don't have full stack developers, or this is a new team in Agile. They say you have two UI developers, two backend developers, one Java developer, two QAs, something like that. And the organization is saying that, boss, you have to estimate in hours. So we say one story point is equal to 6 hours. Okay. And let us, if so, we will, this could be 5 hours, this could be 7 hours, but typically 6 hours working days there, 1 hour of breaks and all, 1 hour of delays or meetings or whatever else you want to do. So productively, one story point is 6 hours. So if you say you have completed one story point of work, which means you have completed 6 hours of work. Okay. Now, this story, we will do the same thing. We can do a planning poker on this. So let us say you have 3 backend people. You ask them, boss, what are the things that we have to do in the backend for this task? They will say, we have to encrypt the password, do some hashing, whatever they want to say. So say how many hours it will take. Developer A says it will take 10 hours. Developer B says it will take 15 hours. Developer C takes it will take 14 hours. So why there is a discrepancy? Then you have a discussion. Ultimately, just like story points, you arrive at a common ground for... So for backend task, let us say we take 12 hours. Again, these are guesstimates. UI, they say there's just only registration form. It's a simple form. It's not going to take 4 hours. Somebody says 8 hours. Somebody says 7 hours. Then again, you have a discussion. If there is only one UI developer, then it is very easy, whatever he says. But if there are 2 and 3, you can have a discussion. Ultimately, they will come up with a number. So let us say in this case, this is a very easy task. So I say this is 6 hours. Then API, same logic. Let us say this takes 6 hours. Then QA says, boss, I will also take something like 6 hours to test. This is not very difficult to do. I'm going to do it in 6 hours. Again, they can have a discussion based on that. Now, this is a very easy method to use because you don't have to estimate the entire story. So UI guy does a UI estimation, DB guy DB, Python QA. Who, if it's a UX design also they are creating, UX designer can also ask for his hours. So all in all, suppose for this there were the 4 tasks. So 12 plus 6, 18 plus 6, 24 plus 6, 30. So this is 30 hours. 30 hours is how many points? 6 points is 6 hours is 1.
5 points.
This
5
is a
pointer.
this is a 5 pointer. So this could be 34 hours also. In that case, see, your 8 pointer is your 48 hours. So if it is between 30 to 40 hours, you can lean on to the 30 this 5 pointer. If it is more than 40 hours, it could be in the range of 40 to 60 hours, then you could be saying it is an 8 pointer. Something like this you can do. So this is murder of agile. This is not how you are supposed to do. But if the organizations are forcing you to use hours, they want estimations to be done in hours, they want to track people in hours, say, yes, I have been doing it and I am very comfortable with it. How do you do that? See, we divide the story into number of subtasks, and then each subtask we estimate in hours, and then we have a discussion, kind of a planning poker, but on a task level. So if there are 4 backend developers, they will have a discussion between them, and ultimately they will come up with one number. Same for all other folks. And ultimately you can map your story points to hours. Based on hours, you can find out how many story points each story is. And you can do this for 4, 6, 8 sprints. Then people get used to it. And then you can drop the hours. People will immediately know, oh, this is a 5 pointer. Oh, this is a 3 pointer. Oh, this is a 13 pointer. After a while, people will get used to it. Then you can drop the hours. So that way you can transform waterfall teams into agile teams and drop the hours. But if the organization is still insistent, they want to see how many hours, these are your hours. Is this clear to all of you? We can do it for one other story. But it's a very basic thing. So let us say this is same here. I'm going to do whatever are the tasks. I'm going to pick up the tasks and see. As a Scrum Master, you can add all these comments, whatever they are saying. This we didn't do any tasking, but if we can do that tasking, any story which is already ready to, maybe this is already ready. Okay, yeah. So again, so in this case, backend guy says, I'm going to take just 2 hours. UI is a very simple UI. You just have to enable those pages. 2 hours. API is 1 or 2 hours. QA is a 2-hour thing. So we can easily say this is a 8 to 10 hour activity, which is like 2 story points. So this is the way you can use story points, and a lot of organizations will insist to do this. Is this clear to all of you? Tasking remains the same. You will still do the tasking, but after tasking, you will ask them to give an estimate based on the hours. In this case, you don't have to have a full stack team. People can, even if it is scattered team, their own domain, you can still use this method. So this is called hybrid method. Why? Because you are mapping story points to hours. Is this clear to all of you? So you know both the methods. Typical agile method. If somebody insists, have you used any other method in hours? Say yes, you have used hours, but then you gradually move them from hours to story points. You drop the hours initially. But if they still insist, no, we want in hours, yes, don't criticize it. Yes, that is also an approach. If management is comfortable with, I can use this also. Then some organizations, what they do is that on a task level, they will want the guys to log in the number of hours in Jira also. So that way they are tracking how many hours the guy worked on in a particular sprint. And that is also happening. But It's a damn crap thing. It's not ideal, but we have to live with it. Priyanka.
So two things. Firstly, you said that this UI, the testing task will take, will include the test case creation and the execution as well, both.
Test cases you will create, test data you will create, and test execution you will do.
Okay. And also we gave the story point as 2, right? So typically in hours it is 6 plus 6, 12 hours it will take. So 12 hours it for the full story to complete, including development testing, or it is individual level?
No, see, basically, whatever number of tasks are 3, 4, 5, 6, you estimate each task how many hours is it going to take, and then you add up those hours.
But then it will not sum up to the story point, no?
No. See, you're overthinking this. Don't worry. Okay, so backend task, the guy says DB side, it will take just 2-3 hours. Okay. UI side, it's going to take just 1 or 2 hours. API again, 1 or 2 hours of work. Then QA, you are the QA. It's a simple browsing story. How many hours? You can say 5 hours also. I'll not debate. Don't worry.
Pulse.
Huh?
2 hours.
2 hours. You can say 5 hours also. Let us say 5. So again, if there are 3 QAs, you can have a discussion. If there is only one QA, then you have to go by what he says and then see whether that happens in the retrospective. Whether actually that you can actually do how many hours it actually took. So you can find out the number of hours. If you have to do very deep micromanagement, then you said 5 hours, then you log the thing. Then in the retrospectives, I can come up with saying, oh, you said estimated is 5 hours, but the actuals is 6.5 hours. You understood? You can do the actuals versus planned also. And a lot of these toxic organizations are doing it. I don't want to comment on it, but I have to tell you, if you are asked, yes, that is also a possibility. So let us say DB guy says 3 hours. Then he logs the hours into actuals. How many hours it actually took. Then I can run a report and find out, okay, the estimation on this story was 3 hours, but he took 4.5 hours. And then you can have a discussion why it took more time or less time, whatever. But again, my suggestion to you would be, don't get into too much of hours, but this is one, a lot of organizations do it, actuals versus planned in terms of hours. You got this, right? So now I'm saying, so let us say you say 5 hours. So 3 plus 2, 5, 5 plus 1, 6, 6 plus 5, 12. Let us say instead of 12, this would have been 17 hours. Let us say this would have been 5, something like that. We would have come up with 17 hours. If it is 17 hours, how many points?
Approximately 2 story points.
No, if it is 17 hours, how many? So 6 divided
2.5.
2.99 something. So roughly 3.
3.
So you have to do some guesswork here. You got this, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It will never be exact number of hours. It will be around that. Again, these are guessing. How much time I am going to take to office? Roughly 1 hour. It's not 57 minutes, 32 seconds, 1 microsecond, roughly. So if it is, let us say it was 16, I could have still taken 3 points. Let us say it is 23 hours. Now 23 hours is 4 points. So neither 3 nor 5. Then whatever the team decides. So you can go to 5 or 3, depending on whatever is the team deciding on.
So story points, we are telling it at the user story level, not at the each task level, right?
Task level, you are estimating it based on the hours.
Hours.
And then whatever hours you come up with, then you can map it with the story points.
But
Lot of organizations are into that. So you can definitely, so this is called a hybrid approach, or where you are estimating it in hours. Yes, Abhilasha.
Sir, which one is more beneficial, kind of story points or the hourly?
Agile. We should not use hours. We should not use hours, but if you are stuck in an organization which wants you to track in hours, you will use hours.
Okay. Or is there any kind of projects or something where hourly estimation will be more beneficial? No.
No. If you are agiles is against hourly estimations,
Mm-hmm.
but we are still stuck with waterfall mode. Lot of organizations will ask you to estimate stories in hours. So how do you do that? You divide the story into tasks.
Hmm.
Each task you estimate in hours, and then map those hours to story points. So this
Okay.
is called hybrid approach. If
Mm-hmm.
the teams are new, if they are not used to estimating the entire story, if there are separate UI, separate Java, separate DB, separate QA team, and they are not comfortable, they say, okay, boss, you estimate your task only.
Okay. And who decides like how much story point should be, how many hours? Like one.
Again, this is journal standard is 6 hours is one day. It
Okay.
could be 7 hours, 5.5 hours, whatever is your productive hours for a single day. So normally, but this is not truly pure agile. This
Hmm.
is called hybrid approach.
Okay.
Ultimately, when people start using it, they get used to story points, then you can drop hours. But lot of organizations and managements are obsessed with tracking hours for their employees. In that
Hmm.
case, you have to use this.
Yes, yes. We
You
are
got
actually doing this hybrid. That's why I'm asking.
any organization which is not paying you a good package, they will do it. छोटे छोटे लोग कितने घंटे काम करते हो? अरे बड़ा दिल रखो यार, प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हैं, ठीक है.
but
You know, if they are going
it's
to
just
track you in hours, you know their mentality. They are not going to pay much, and they will make your life hell.
Yes.
इंटरव्यू में ही पता चल जाता है कि कंपनी ठीक है कि नहीं. अच्छा, हाउ डू यू ट्रैक इट इन आवर्स चोई? आई अंडरस्टैंड, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू कम टू यू. But if there is no choice, you have to know what to do.
but
Yes.
if we have to complete the sprint in 2 weeks, we need to calculate the hours also, right? Otherwise, if it is just based on story points, it will be not be difficult to track.
Mm, see, it's the mentality. I don't want to know how many hours Priyanka is working. It is her choice. So you estimate how many. So let us say you are a QA, you have 5 stories in front of you based on your experience, expertise, skill level, your understanding of the requirement. You tell me whether you will be able to test it or not. I completely trust you. So you say, Joey, I will be able to do these 3 stories in this sprint. I say, okay. Then ultimately you were only able to do 2 stories, not the third one. Then we have a discussion in retro. You say, okay, I did not understand. There were in the third story, there were more edge cases. I did not take a look in detail the acceptance criteria. Next time I'm going to look at the edge cases more so that I'll be able to judge it better. Okay. In next time, you estimate it better, but some bugs come. So you say, okay, sometimes if the requirement is very critical, then I will expect more bugs in that sense. So if the requirement is critical, I will size it even more. So you learn these things, but ultimately, if I trust you, then you will also become better at this. Rather than saying, Priyanka, how many hours you are working? Why did you not complete it? You said 5 hours, but it took you 7 hours. Why? What is the answer for these questions here? You said 5 hours, now it took 7 hours. You can never estimate these things in on a granular level, right? There was an extra edge case, there was a clarification with PO. It took a couple of hours. Now I'm saying why it took 7 hours. So the focus is on the accuracy of estimation, which is completely wrong. The focus should be on the quality of the product, the quality of the design, the efficiency of your process, rather than accuracy of your. So I am not obsessed with how much hours I take to go to office or come back from office. It can take 1 hour, 1 hour, 5 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes. What is more important is my mental health is more important, my productivity is more important. I have to focus on those things rather than the accuracy of time taken to do something. You get me, right?
Yeah.
It's a mindset thing. But try and explain this to a lot of folks. They will not. I need hours. This requirement, I need to know how many hours you will take, how many people. अरे घर बना रहे हैं क्या, मजदूर हैं? These are developers, yeah. These are testers. But that's the mindset they have. So you can't help it. So to withstand that mindset, tell them, yeah, it's a very good method. So this is the method. So you know now the method. And I will show you the 2 rupees now. Okay. Yeah, Mohammed sir. 3 rupees. Oh man, one is enough.
It's a bug.
Actually, it's keep disconnected.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
No worries. No worries. Yes.
So yeah. So my question is related to how to map the story points to the hours. I missed it, so I can get some.
So typically you can ask the team that how many hours are your productive hours in a day.
Okay.
So they may say 5 hours, 5.5 hours, 6 hours, 6.5 hours, 7 hours, whatever. So see, in typically 9-hour shift will be there. Out of those 9 hours, you reduce 1 hour break time. Then you reduce another 1.5 hour for meetings, another half an hour for anything unplanned. Or so people are not going to work purely for. So whatever are your productive hours, it could be 6 hours, it could be 5.5 hours, it could be 6.5 hours, it could be 7 hours, whatever your team is comfortable in saying. They may say 4 hours, but your management is not going to accept it. So whatever is acceptable to the team and whatever is acceptable to the management. So typically in the industry, it ranges from 5 hours to 7.5 hours. That 8 hours also some organizations take. So it depends on organization and team how much hours you want to allocate to a story point.
Okay.
Okay.
And do we maintain, is there any template or something that we use to map the hours with the points? Or it's a simple calculations, that's it?
It's a simple, I mean, people have made it very complicated also. But at this point, don't get into too much complication. One story point is 6 hours. You can put it 5.5 hours also, 7 hours also, but let's keep it 6 hours for now.
Okay.
Okay. Now, remember we saw in agile estimation sheet initially we were trying to find out. One sec, I'll show you. This is the sheet I'm talking about. So we did discuss this, right? You remember in the first or second class or third class. In case you don't remember, so let us say this is a team which has 1 QA and 4 developers. Developer, 1 UI, 2 UI and 2 backend developers, and 1 QA. Very small team of 5. So, and remember, SM and PO's availability will not be taken into account. Okay, SM and PO's availability, everybody else availability you are going to calculate. So Alice, I took 10 days. The maximum hours she is available is for 80 hours, but I have to deduct planned leave, unplanned leave, technical debt, unplanned work, meetings. So now she is available for 44 hours. So 44 hours is the amount of work that we can allocate her. Now this is roughly 196 hours. Now which means that one story point is equal to 6 hours. So 6 divided by 196 is roughly 32. So 30 roughly 30 to 32 story points of work I can take up in this sprint. One story point is 6 hours. So one total number of hours divided by whatever you have mapped. It could, if it is 8 hours, then I would divide 196 divided by 8, which is roughly 24. If I did a mapping of 8 points, then it was 25 points I can take up. But if I did a mapping of 6 hours, I can take up 30 points of work. Again, these are rough estimations. Then eventually how you will get better at it, I will show you today. So at least for initial 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprints, so you can say that you used to get the hours from the availability sheet, and based on the hours, your capacity for that sprint is calculated. The capacity for our sprint is 30 points. 6 now 196 divided by 6, so 30, 32 points roughly. Let's say, let's make it a round figure of 30. So this is how you will. Now let us see how the sprint goes. So this is clear to you, story point mapping and how to find the capacity from the availability sheet. Whatever is the number of hours, you divide it and you get a rough idea of how many story points you get. Okay. Then let us go to the, where is my Jira? Okay, so now, okay, this is my backlog and this is my sprint. A lot of people were asking the sprint planning. Now we can. So 20 points is what we took. Let us see now what happens. There is one more. Where is the board here? This is irritating. Why is it not showing? Let me refresh. Okay. So one other concept I will tell you, but after we complete this concept. So let us say this is in dev, this is in dev, this is blocked. No, this becomes blocked. Why this becomes blocked? On day 3, somebody says that, boss, we needed 2 APIs. Instead of 1 API, we now need 2 APIs. But the second API, we need it from some other team. So what to do now? And then that API, we missed to find out in the grooming call. And then I think Deepak also joined. Deepak, I think you missed the story hours. Don't worry, I'll cover it.
No problem. I'll see the recording.
Yeah. So then you missed the API. We missed the API. Fine, we missed it. Now it is dependent on some other team. Can we take it up now? No, I don't think so. PO says we still need it. Let us try. So in trying that, it's still in a blocked state and nobody is doing anything on it. This story gets to testing. Everything is fine. There is no problem in this story. Everything went on well with this story. This story got blocked. Why it got blocked? There was a bug. So I think I did cover how to link the stories to bug. Did I, or you guys don't remember it? Or I am also. But I'll show you. I have to show you now also, because otherwise you will. Okay, I'll just create a bug. Okay. So let us say in this story, there is some UI bug which Priyanka raises some UI bug on this story, and it is crucial and critical. We can't. Now I go to this story. I click on the plus sign. No. There's an option called add connected work. I click on that and I use the relationship is blocked by. There are a lot of different relationships. We'll talk about it, but for now, is blocked by. So this bug which Priyanka has raised is a blocker. If this is there, I can't. Where is that bug here? Was it even created? Let me check. GRB 23. Let's go back to the board. So I click on the plus sign, add connected work, is blocked by GRB. This is the one. So I link this bug. What am I doing? I am just blocking the story because this is QA is doing it. So your QA started testing this story and she found out that, so this task is done. This task is done. This task was done. Then QA task is in testing and API task is also done. QA in their testing found out that, boss, there is a critical bug. She links this bug to the story and puts the story in a blocked state. Next day, daily stand-up happens. There is a concern that, so as a Scrum Master, you will go through all the blocked items. That is your major facilitation role. So why is this blocked? There is a bug. Has the discussion happened? Yes, the discussion has happened between the QA and the PO and the developer. It is a bug and the developer is going to fix this bug. So then UI task, it can still remain. So some teams will reopen this task and against this task they will do, but you can work against this bug also. That is fine. So either way. So then this task will be now unblocked and it is back to dev now because dev is fixing it. Once it fixes it, then it will assign to testing. And once it is assigned to testing, the story can also be put back to testing. If everything is fine, let us say the bug is fixed now, everything goes fine, and then peer reviews it and we can close the story. This story is still not, it is still blocked. We are still waiting. The other team says, we will give you this API, give us one more day. Fine. This story moves to testing. Then this story is, let us say, done. This story is still not done. Not done. API problem. Okay. Now let us say, so we are ending our sprint now. Okay. We are ending our sprint. This is the situation with our sprint. One story is in blocked state and the other stories are in done state. So let us complete the sprint. Now, this is an error which you will get when you close the sprint. What is the error? The error is sprint cannot be completed as there are incomplete subtasks. So if the subtasks are not completed in your done story, it will not allow you. So typically your team will be lazy and people will not close their subtasks, which is why you have to be very careful that they update their subtask. So this in Priyanka did not close her subtask. Why did you not do it, Priyanka? Okay, now let us start. So then another story. This is a done story. I think the subtask would be in a. So all these subtasks need to be closed. So if the team is not closing their subtasks, what can I do as a Scrum Master? What can I do to make them close?
Every day
We
before
can
the
talk to team
daily
members,
call.
like, is there anything remaining on that? Something.
Hmm.
Say that I
Yeah.
will audit in the next sprint.
Okay. Yeah. One way of doing it is this.
Before the daily call, we can
Hmm?
discuss. Before the daily stand-up call, we can discuss what all items to close in the Jira.
We can do it in the
And we
retrospective.
will assign 5 to 10 minutes before starting the daily
Yeah,
sprint.
correct.
Yeah. Some of these. Another thing is DOD. You can put this in DOD that you are not allowed to close your task or a story if it is not closed. So your definition of done will be that all the tasks are closed. Only then we can close a story. That is also. If somebody closes a story with task being open, that means they have not respected the definition of done. So that also is apart from the. Okay.
Sir, but in DevOps, this issue is not come actually. We are using Azure DevOps. In that, this issue never comes because complete sprint option is not there actually.
Okay. One sec. What is this story? Why did it? Okay. None of the tasks are. So I can complete the tasks. Okay.
Sir, do we have this validation in Jira? Like, if it checks all the tasks are done or not?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah. So let's complete. Okay. Now it tells me the sprint is completed. 3 stories are done. 1 is open. And then this is my spillover. So this is a spillover and this is a block story. Maybe this was a, how many pointers? This was an 8-pointer task. So maybe the UI task is over. Maybe the API task is not over. Because the API task is not over, rest of the task is not over, but we can still, let us say, claim 2 points from it. So some teams, they will create a new story and mark it as a 5-pointer and close this story with a 2-pointer, but not a good practice. So I would say if it is not completed, don't mark it as done. Story, it impacts the velocity. I'll show you how. So do not mark any uncompleted story as done, but if your team insists they want to do it, you have a choice. Why I say it is not very good, I will show you. Okay, so now spillovers, I will move it back to the backlog. I will not move the spillovers to a new sprint. Move it back to the backlog because this task may not be a priority any longer. So let the PO decide if it is needed or not needed. So let us say I complete the. So spillover, the option was to either move it to the new sprint or move it to the backlog. I chose the backlog option because I want to move everything back to the backlog and then the PO should reprioritize the work. That is the ideal way of doing it. But some teams will straight away go to the next sprint. That is not a very healthy practice, but some teams do. Okay, now, okay, this is sprint 2. Now in this sprint 2, on day 1 of the next sprint, they say, PO says, Scrum Master, can you check whether this will be available? Scrum Master goes and check. He says, yes, there is a delay, but because delay was because now this spillover is done. Now we are discussing the reasons of the spillover. We'll do a detailed analysis, but I'm just going to do it for this story now, and then we'll go on. But we'll have a formal session on the spillover analysis. This will be a very important session. So in the retrospective, we say, okay, we could not identify a API. Because of that, the spillover is there. Next time, we will try to identify APIs. We'll learn from it. So lessons learned, we can put it thus. So now SM says that, boss, I have spoken to them. They will give the story. So now PO says, if that is the case, we can put it in dev again and then this story we will pick it up because this is still a very important story. I am going to do it. See, we are not changing the story points of this story. This still remains an 8-pointer because this story is a high complex story, and this is what the meaning of story points is, that it reflects the amount of effort, the amount of complexity, the amount of risk which is there in a particular work item. It does not tell you the time it will take to complete it. Time is a function of the judgment of the Scrum team. They will judge a story whether they can do it in 10 days or not. Initially, they will struggle, and then eventually they will be able to size it in a way that they can pick up stories which they will be able to complete. Okay. Now he says, boss, there are other epics we have to start. So based on my hours, still I am not using any estimation, data. Still, it is based on gut feel. This is only 2 sprints. So one developer says, I'm going to pick this story. I'm fine with this. I'll be able to do this. In the first sprint, we did not know any story points, no velocity, no concept. We only took 4 stories based on the gut feel of our developers and testers. In their judgment, they said, okay, 1 work item to each person, we will be able to complete it. They were able to do 3 stories. One was a spillover where they missed to find out the API. Now, in this case, again, in the second sprint, again, judgment and gut feel. But they know roughly they can do minimum 3 stories. Can they pick up 4? That we'll see. So they have, now this guy says, as a user, I want to see the status of the restaurant. This is a complicated story. Why? This is a 13-pointer. Can we do it? Kiran said, yeah. I am going to do it. That is not a problem. Priyanka also said she will be able to test it. Okay, fine. They took on a 13-pointer. We'll see whether they are able to do it or not. And then they took on another story. Then I'm going to start the sprint. These 3 stories were not important. These were the stories in the minds of developers. They thought they would be able to complete it. Then let us start the sprint. Again, so this is, I don't remember when was the, okay. This will be, okay, let us say, it's all going to be messed up because I'm just going to go, okay. Insert, and then let us start this. Okay. Then again, this story, we got the API, it went to testing, there was a bug, briefly it went to block, then it went to done. Another story, this 5-pointer got to testing, no problems. This 3 story got, so let us say all of this is happening. This story is also in testing. This story was in dev, then it got to testing, then it got to a bug. And that's it. This is the state of your sprint on last day. This is still in testing. It was not over. This is still blocked. And because there are 2 critical bugs in this story. Then let me complete the sprint with this. But the question is, why was this then in the retrospective, we will discuss why were we not able to complete this story? It turns out it was, then I asked Priyanka, I asked Kiran. Kiran says this was too complicated. I had to do sorting, hashing. There were other, I had to fine tune the query, whatever. It was a new thing for me. I couldn't figure out. So lesson learned, if it is something new, then you take, if it is a 13-pointer, it's a complex story, then ideally split it up. So if splitting is not possible, then maybe 2 people can work together on that story. So something like that we can learn from this. Priyanka says, because this story was too much to test, this story was little less, but I could not concentrate on it. So basically we took on a complex story. Then the team says, boss, from next time onwards, we will not take a 13-pointer. We'll only take a 5-pointer or an 8-pointer. If the sprint length is 3 weeks, then maybe we can do a complex story. But if the sprint length remains 10 days, then we will only pick up 5-pointer or an 8-pointer. If it's a big story, we will divide it into 2 or 3 pieces. Okay. So this is the lesson learned. Then we can complete the story. Okay. Now let me go to, do we have some sort of indication now how many things we are doing now? Let us see. There is the plus sign. There is something called reports here now. Okay, let me go to that. So we have ended 2 sprints. Add to the navigation. There is something called velocity report now. Let us see what is this now. Or have we completed the sprint? One sec. Let me go to the okay. Why is it for some reason? One sec. Did we complete the stories in that sprint? Looks like we did not. Okay, so typically your velocity chart will show you, for some reason it is not picking up the completed stories. One sec. So in the first, I'll show you a different board here, so that it is more clear. Okay. So in this case, if you see in the first sprint, this team did a story points of 8. So whatever is your completed work, whatever stories you are able to complete, that is your velocity. So this team did a velocity of 8 points. Then in the next sprint, they took 21 points and they were able to complete 21 points. In the next sprint, they took 21 points, but they were only able to do 16 points. So after 3 sprints, their average velocity is 15 points. This gray bar is the one which you do a commitment for. Let us say you took 30 points. That is your commitment. But in reality, how many of those 30 points you were able to complete? So let us say you could only do 20 points. So that will be your actual velocity. So in this case, our average is after 3 sprints, 15 points. So now you have a rough idea. In the 4th sprint, you will be able to take something between 15 to 18 points. So eventually, once you go to 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th sprints, you will have a complete idea of what is the average velocity that your team is doing. So velocity is nothing but the completed story points in your given sprint. And it is one of the most important concepts in Agile. So story points are your completed work in a particular sprint. Velocity is your completed story points in your sprint. Now this chart will give you an average. Based on this average, you can find out how many points of work you can pick up in your next sprint. So typically there is something called relative velocity. What is that? It is, so let us say I am in 10th sprint. So what is my velocity in the previous 3 to 4 sprints? I will not take the entire 10 sprints because a lot of things would have changed. Team would have gone mature. You could have added resources, or there could be skill upgradation. So whatever is your last 3 to 4 sprints average, that is the average you can take into consideration. So let us say my last 3 or 4 sprints, on an average, we are taking up 25 points of work. That is what I am producing. So that will be, so you can take roughly 25 to 28 points. That will be my average. Now, if the product owner comes and says, boss, you have to do 40 points now, and the team cannot say no, then you get into a problem of overcommitment. You are ignoring your historical velocity. Your team in the last 5, 6, 7 sprints on an average have been doing 25 points of work. But you are now trying to take up 40 points of work without any solid ground of picking it up. Then that's a problem of overcommitment. The Scrum Master has to tell. So remember sprint planning, you need to have a list of DOR stories. Then you need to have your agile capacity sheet. Then you need to have your historical velocity data. So your historical velocity data you will get from the velocity report in Jira. That will give you the average velocity, average story points completed by your team. And so to do sprint planning, you need 3 things. Number 1, you need DOR ready stories. Number 2, you need your capacity sheet. Our capacity sheet showed 200 hours. 200 hours is roughly, or 190 hours, 200 hours, roughly we can take up 30 points of work. We understood that although our capacity is 30, but our average actual results are anything between 22 to 25 points. Let us say our average is 23. So we can target 30, but we are still able to do 22 to 23. So we can roughly take 25, 26, 27 points, somewhere in that range. So now you are working based on the empirical process control, which means that you are taking decisions based on the empirical data. Your team, you know how much your team is able to do, and based on the number of hours available, based on the story pointing, based on your historical velocity, you are deciding the team's capacity and committing the deliverable for that sprint. Is this clear to all of you?
Can you repeat, if you said capacity sheet and you also said average velocity, one more thing you said, right?
Yes,
Also.
yes. I will. But I'll share the screen again. One second.
Sir, if people are working and some story points are completed, but complete user story is not completed, then velocity can never be calculated, right? In the first 2 sprints.
If yeah, that's what I want to show you, that actually. And this is exactly how what I was creating the scenario. So in second sprint, let us say there was some issue. The the SIT server was slow. Team could not complete their testing. All the stories got a spillover. So in that case, how many story points we did? 0. That, and then there is a dip in your velocity. Your average is only 10. But see, all of that, your average will increase because you will complete those points here in the next sprint. You can still claim your points. Instead of these 10 days, you are claiming these points in the next sprint. But this is the example. In sprint 2, we could not complete any story, 0, because there was some issue in the testing server. and all the stories got a spillover. So in this case, you can see my average is 10. But again, first 3 or 4 sprints is like that only. By 5th sprint, you have some indication of how many story points they can probably do. As you grow more mature, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th sprint, you will have a substantial data to base your target. So this is your, so what this commitment is your how many story points we are committing, we are promising. This is the planned, this is the planned work, this is the actual work. So based on this, so planned was 26, actual was 18. So 18 divided by 26 into 100, that is your completion rate, or work completed rate, or velocity completion rate. That also, or 10 stories you planned, you completed 7, 70% completion rate. You can find your completion rate either based on your stories, or you can also take your work items individually, task level, story level, bugs level, everything. I'll show you how when we get into metrics. But for now, since all of you guys were asking questions on sprint planning, this is how you do sprint planning. You need an availability sheet, then you need a velocity sheet. Velocity sheet gives you the average velocity. So you take the average velocity from the last 3 to 4 sprints. That gives you a rough indication of how many story points you can complete.
Sir, why for the sprint 1 commitment is 0?
Because for sprint 1 it will be 0 now, because whatever it is we are taking up upfront.
What I was thinking, this 18 or 26, it is taking from, let's say we have picked 4 stories.
Stories,
So
correct.
total of those it is taking.
No, it will always take, I'll show you for some other. See 0. If you pick up anything, Cloud Jira in this version, you start any project, in the first sprint, it will mark it as 0. Could be a bug, could be a design, but this is how it is. But ultimately, this is from next sprint onwards. The data we have to cover is this. How many, 2 things here. One, it gives you the average, which is what you are interested in. What is the average number of story points that my team is doing? That is one. Then how much is the difference between commitment and completion rate? If we are only able to do 50%, 40%, 30%, then there is a problem. Typically 60%, 70% of commitment we should be able to complete.
Okay, and let's say I am the Scrum Master for 2 or 3 projects. So is there any kind of option to select the team or something? Like
Yeah,
here we only.
see, this is it, right? These are different boards. So suppose you are a Scrum Master of
Oh, okay,
Androids,
okay, okay,
then now
okay.
you are a of this. Now you are a, so these are the different. You got this, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Got it. Yeah.
So this is another board. If you look at this, oh, in this case, it is taking up first sprint.
5.
I think I may have selected an incorrect option when we started the sprint. That may have been the reason. In this case, it is taking up. But again, the important point is the average is, this chart will give you the average one, and it will give you the completion rate of your team. These 2 things it will give you. So in the interview, they will ask you, how do you do sprint planning? What tools you use? You use historical velocity. You use hybrid technique also, where you map story points with hours. With that, you find out. So let us say 6 points is 6 hours is 1 point. My team is available for 150 hours. So roughly they will be able to do 25 points. Then I look at my historical velocity. My historical velocity is, so commitment we can do for 25 points, but typically my team is able to do 18, 20, 22 points. So I will base my number based on these 2 things. Is this clear to you guys, Deepak? This is clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Sir,
All clear? Can we?
sir, one dot. Sir, people, as you said, somebody has taken 13 points and 8 points, and typically what happens is at the end of the sprint, the senior management will ask, okay, why you have taken this, why you have not completed. After next sprint, people think that why to listen all these things, then they will only take less points. Everyone will take less story points than less user stories. What I mean to say.
Again, you are doubting the team.
And I'm not doubting the team. If the senior management are asked, then they will pressurize, na? Then they will take less user stories.
That is why velocity should not be used as a productivity metric. But unfortunately, if you use velocity as a productivity metric, then what you get is a gamification of velocity. People will inflate it. It's an 8-pointer, they will show it as a 13-pointer.
Okay.
It's an 8-pointer, they will show it as a 13-pointer. And they will show, oh, my team is doing 150 points. This is called gamification of velocity. That is why velocity is not a external productivity metric. But it takes a very mature management and people to understand this concept. People want to know how well my team is doing. They will typically, people are just interested, okay, these are my numbers. But velocity actually is a internal metric for a team. They are sizing their stories. See, basically you have to build, let us say, 5 features. Out of those 5 features, let us say we divide those 5 features into 50 stories. Now I want to see these 50 stories, how much time I need to complete it. So we start doing sizing. Okay, these stories we will be able to complete in first sprint, next sprint, next sprint. In 3 or 4, 5 sprints, we get a rough idea of how much work the team can do. So to get a rough estimation on how we can plan releases. But if you are going to minutely look into these numbers, then people will inflate it. People will underestimate also. Sometimes these things will come here, 100%. If you are going to use it as a productivity, sometimes in the interview, if the guy is very good, they will ask you, do you think velocity is a productivity metric? The real answer is no. It is not a productivity metric, which is why you should never compare two teams' velocity. If Kiran's teams is doing 50 points and Priyanka's teams is doing 70 points, doesn't mean Priyanka's teams is better. Maybe they are estimating it in a different way. So in reality, your completion rate and your quality of the product, the number of bugs, the stakeholder feedback, those are more important things than this number. Of course, people will do gamification, yes. 100% yes. And people do it. That is why there will be audits then. But typically it's very, see, sometimes if agile coaches are there in the estimations, then they can make sure that some neutrality is observed in estimating these things. So let us say if I'm the agile coach of an organization and I see Kiran's team is showing extraordinary velocity, I will go and attend his estimation sessions, see how they are estimating it. And then I can give feedback. So there are checks and balances in place. There is something called agile governance. So they look into the authenticity of these metrics that we put it to dish out to the stakeholders. So again, I'm getting ahead of yourself. In the interview, they will ask, how do you do sprint planning? Sir, we do sprint planning based on agile capacity sheet. Then I do a story to hours mapping. Based on that, I will know my story points, how much my team can take. Then we will go with the sprint based on those points. Then after 3, 4, 5, 6 sprints, we can use our relative velocity, our historical data, whatever the team is completing. So which is why if you include half-baked stories, spillover, that 8-pointer is 2 points complete, then it is 6 point not complete. It gives you a false impression. Your velocity metric will be not the real metric of your team. If you do that spillover, if you claim your points of half the story done, because it is the completed points which count. But again, in real life, don't complicate this. Very simple. Some teams do it, some teams don't do it. If you have done a 8-pointer, if something is done, you can close a 3-point story and create another 5-pointer. That's also fine. Don't get into too much complication, but not recommended by Ajay. Okay. So is this clear to all of you? If in the interview, they will ask you, how do you do sprint planning? What is velocity? How do you calculate average velocity? What do you do with spillovers? These are the questions they will ask you. How do you assign story points to a story? So you have two methods. One is the perfect agile way, which we discussed on Friday. The other is this hybrid approach, where we divide the story into tasks, and each task we find out how many hours, and then all those hours are added together, and then we map the story points to hours. And that is how we get the story points for those particular stories. How many stories we will pick up? It depends on my average velocity and my availability. So availability also you can say, so if you are mapping 8 points to 1 hour and you are available for 200 hours, so then your commitment could be 25 points. And the actual results would be whatever stories your actual velocity. And if there is, so you will have periods of good velocity, suddenly there might be a dip in the velocity. CI/CD is not working, testing region is not there, Onam celebrations are there, something. Then again, there could be a up curve, then again. So if consistently you could be getting a team which is dipping in velocity. Why? There could be a lot of reasons for it. That is a discussion which we will do probably next time. What are the reasons of Jira spillovers, or why teams cannot complete their stories, and what are the things that we can do to improve the team? So I think some of these things we have already discussed, but we'll do a formal discussion. So is this clear, whatever we discussed today? So now you are clear in estimations, the perfect agile way. The second is a compromised way, or what with these typically service-based companies do, the hourly based estimations. You will know hourly based also. How to do a historical velocity calculation, that also will know. I think next time we'll get into more into metrics, and then we'll get into spillovers. I have to go through all the reports.
We don't do any estimates. We do estimates in the grooming call as well, right?
I did not get it.
No. In the grooming call, do we do any estimate, or is it only in the sprint planning that we are doing the estimates?
In the grooming calls, we will do the estimates. Because in the sprint planning, see, there is something called definition of ready, correct? We need stories which are ready for development. Ready for development means I need to know what is the size of a story. If the size of a story is not known, then how will I pick it up in the sprint planning? In the sprint planning, you tell yourself that my historical velocity is 30 points, which means I can pick up stories worth 30 points, correct?
Yes.
Now, if my stories are not sized up, if I have not done an estimation of stories, how will I pick it up? Which means in the sprint planning, you already have stories which are estimated in the grooming calls itself. I think this is the third time you are asking this question. For some reason, it is confusing to you.
Yeah.
See, sprint planning, I need to know what is my capacity. So my capacity is 30 points. My average velocity is 27 points or 26 points. So roughly I can pick up stories between 25 to 30 points. Correct? This is
Yes.
established. Now I need stories which are ready for development. Ready for development means estimation is already done. If you start doing estimation on the planning day, it for 3, 4, 5 stories, that may take 2, 3, 4 hours. And then you add 2 hours of sprint planning. You will end up 8-hour session. Who will sit in that 8-hour? Yeah. So the assumption in sprint planning is that you already have stories which are discussed and estimated. The acceptance criteria is clear. The dependencies are sorted out. The estimation is done. All those things are already done. Now you have ready for development stories. See, if you know, so let us say you have to take 25 points of stories. Now you have one story of 8-pointer, one 5-pointer, one 3-pointer, one 5-pointer, something like this you are going to pick up. But if your points are not there, then how can you include that story or not? You need to know that number, right? If it is a 5-pointer or an 8-pointer or a 3-pointer. Otherwise, how can you decide what will you pick up? You got this right.
Yeah.
And lot of teams don't do it well. They, in the sprint planning, they decide the story points and they don't do a detailed discussion. Oh, this looks like a 5-pointer. Oh, this looks like an 8-pointer. They will rush it up and mess up the entire process. Then they will blame Agile. Agile is useless. Scrum Masters are useless. Scrum is of no use after not following the process correctly. So if you are deciding the story points in the sprint planning, you are doing it incorrectly because you are rushing it up. You have sometimes the estimations are not possible in the first go. Developers say, I did not understand it completely. Okay, fine. We'll have another session. You go through the acceptance criteria and come back. So give them enough time to understand a story and then go for the estimation. Then they will be able to size it up better. Sizing up is a term which I'm using for a phenomena called where you are understanding whether you can complete a story in a particular time frame or not. That is called sizing up or assessing the feasibility of doing a story in that time. You got this right. Any other clarifications, questions? Rupa, no questions today.
I have one question, sir.
Okay. Yes.
So can we change the story point during the sprint? Let's say earlier we have decided it should be 80 story points, but when we go deep into the story, later we find out it is should be 13 or 20
If your
because of
management,
any
if your
technical.
management is management which is obsessed with velocity, then do it. But ideally, it's a mistake. See, it was an 8-point. It was you assessed some story as an 8-pointer. It turned out to be a complex story. It is a 13-pointer. Retrospective lesson learned. Next time you will do it better.
Okay, but a story point should be changed or
I am saying, why is this obsession about story points? If your management is obsessed with story points, change the story points.
Okay.
But perfect agile way, no need of changing the story points. It's a mistake. People realize, okay, we assessed it incorrectly. Why we assessed it incorrectly? We did not take into account there's an additional layer of work here. So they learn from it and then size it better in the next time.
Okay. And can we break the story during the sprint? I mean, let's say there are 4 acceptance criteria, out of which 3 are done.
Not recommended, but a lot of teams do it and I don't mind. So let us say we took on a story which is a large story. So you took on a story which uses iOS and Android. So you want to do it differently for iOS and you want to do it that's fine. Go ahead and do it. And make sure you follow this in the next sprints also in the grooming itself rather than taking up in the middle of the sprint. That is fine.
Yes. Okay.
See, ultimately, your role, what is your role? Your role is to make sure that you have a team which delivers at a high speed and a high quality product. So agile practices or scrum practices or Kanban practices or safe practices are practices which the software teams will do so that they can deliver a product at a high speed with a high quality. That is your role, and that is what you are going to be teaching the team to do the right set of things so that they can ultimately, the objective is everybody wants a team which delivers at a fast pace and a good quality product. So all of this is doing the, don't forget the objective. The objective is to deliver at a reasonably fast pace and a accepted quality of the product. So we are doing all this to achieve that objective. Is this? Why will they hire you? Because there are very few people who can actually create teams of that sort, who can do a quick delivery with a reasonably good quality. But how do you do that? These are the some of the things that we have been discussing all these days to do this. You do the right events, you follow the correct Scrum practices, you do the estimations properly, you do the groomings in a efficient way using invest and all those techniques. You use DoD to monitor quality of the product, all these things. Okay, can we wind up all good today? Today
Yes.
people are very sad. What is Monday?
Monday.
Monday. And also first year. First means 30 days to go for next salary. That also is a sad thing, right?
Sir, in this month, actually in our company we have no hike because we are manager. Post is manager, below manager only they are giving hike. But they are expecting to do all the innovation, all that. That's one of the reason why I'm trying to switch. I'll be trying to switch. No hike is there.
There's a formula.
Service companies are like this only. I
There's
decided
a
I'll
formula.
try for product company.
See, if you want to make your salary 3x. So let us say I am sitting at 5 lakhs, I want to make it 15. I am sitting at 20, I want to make it 60. So every 10 years, you should be able to 3x your salary minimum. And you can only 3x your salary if you do 2 or 3 switches every 10 years. Because see, if you are dependent on the internal appraisal, which will be like 5%, 7%, max 10%, maybe 12%, 15% in a very good year. So if you are working for a period of, let us say, 10 years, out of those 10 years, your 5 years will be anything between 3 to 8% or 3 to 7%. 1 or 2, you will have an extraordinary years, you can get 12 or 15. If you do this, even the mathematics is you will be only able to reach 1.5 or 1.7x of your salary in 10 years. But if you do 3 switches or minimum 2 switches in 10 years, ideally 3 switches, then that is the only way to get into 3x of your salary. And especially in an economy like India, you need to 3x your salary every 10 years. So that's the mathematics of it. But it's a tough time living, right? I wish I could live in the 18th century. We had a lot of leisure time then, right? More technology, the more. See, we are
complications.
10:30. I started today at 10:30, and still there is one more call I have to attend. So a lot of people think success means that a beautiful life. Success means more work, more frustration, more problems to solve. The more problems you solve, the longer hours you can solve, that is success. Unless you have generational wealth. I mean, Akash Ambani can say whatever he wants to say, that is generational wealth. But if you don't have generational wealth and you still want to be successful, that means you are going to work very hard, very, very hard. So this is how life is. Anyways, too much of philosophy now. Let's all good. So you guys got the clarification. Sorry, Rupa, you are clear, right? If on estimation.
Yes, sir, it is clear. Yeah.
Go through the sessions again. 100% they will ask you, how do you estimate stories, hourly thing, or the story point thing, whatever it is, capacity, all of these things. The concept of velocity also should be very clear to you. What is the concept of velocity? Velocity is completed story points in a given sprint. And based on that, you can define your capacity. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, team here. I tried to be very quick. Okay, I'll launch a poll and then we'll see each other tomorrow. Have fun. See you tomorrow. Take care, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you. Good night.